Yes, people, and welcome back to the Ram Stand. It's been a while. It's been a while since I last been on stream chatting to you guys about what's happened the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Liverpool losing 2-1 to Chelsea. Me and Drifty chopped it up. If you haven't watched that stream, please go ahead and have a look. They'll look insight into the majority of the top six teams. But this show today is going to be focusing more on the international break. Um, a couple of really standout performances recently from a lot of players. One in particular that stood out was a certain Hungarian international. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that. First of all, housekeeping as always. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get this out there on the road to 500 subscribers. I know we've hit 350 subscribers on our way to 500. So if you know anyone that's looking for Liverpool content, do get this out there and we'll be more than happy to share with you my thoughts. So first things first, we will go to is the Hungarian national team. So if you bear with me one moment, I'm just going to quickly share my screen if the thing will let me. Here we are. Let me put that a little bit bigger for you. There we are. I don't need that. Cool. So, first things first, as you can see, it was I would say, a very successful match week for Hungary, so to speak. They got a 2-0 win against Armenia in their qualifier, but I think everyone's more talking about this particular game in general. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because I can't even see it myself. Here we are. Yes, people, 2-2 draw against the mighty Portugal, who's arguably one of the favourites for the World Cup. And you can see Dominic Szoboszlai, the Hungarian captain, getting a last-minute equaliser for the Hungarians to more or less keep their um, their World Cup qualifying hopes alive at the moment. As you can see, these guys are currently second in their group. Obviously, Portugal, by far the better team out of all four teams in that group with 10 points. Hungary's behind with 5 points as well. So at that moment, you could tell that goal was sent a massive shockwave across Europe. The fact that Hungary went away from home to one of the best teams in the world in Portugal, the current UEFA Nations League holders, and got a decent result. I got a decent result at the end of it. So fair play to Hungary. Their next up and coming matches are against, if I can get it up for myself, are against Armenia and Ireland. So if you look at it on paper, technically the most easier games out of, well, it is the easier games out of the group, but if you're looking at the quality of Hungary against both those nations, it should be a Hungarian win back to back. But as you know, with a lot of this Nations League or even the World Cup qualifiers this time round, a lot of surprise results. A lot of surprise results. But speaking of surprise results, I mean, the next team I'll show you, there was barely any surprise results to this one, and that is the Netherlands. So as you can guys see, the Netherlands played two relatively routine teams that they'll play against, Malta and Finland. Obviously, the main standout for those two games is Liverpool's Cody Gakpo. Now, granted, it is against Malta and it is against Finland, not the best teams in the world, but still, if you're talking about actual contributions, Cody Gakpo got a goal, and also our captain Virgil van Dijk got a goal as well. So, if you're a Liverpool fan that's looking for anything at the moment, just to take away, getting these performances, regardless of the opposition, our players scoring goals, contributing to their team winning football matches. That's the only W's that we can get at this moment. So, Netherlands right now, again, one of the best teams in Europe in terms of the overall quality. You've got one of the strongest teams out of all the European nations. by far and ahead of everybody else. There's Poland, who's narrowly behind them, who's doing quite well for themselves. Finland, and then you got Lithuania and Malta, who are just the disparity between those nations is just very, very high. But as expected, Netherlands are leading the group as the favourites within that group as well. Now on to another team that's expected to win, and that is France. Now, if you look at France, well, if you look at the team that they've got, as in like you likes of Mbappe, Theo Hernandez, Benjamin Pavard, you got the likes of Ekitke, current Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele. These are players that, when you hear those names, you expect them to do a little something in their group. And surprisingly, they haven't been perfect. And now you're looking at the other team that they got in their group, Ukraine, Iceland, Azerbaijan. You think of France and you think of, well, the quality of France, it should be a lot higher, shouldn't it? It should be France wiping the floor of Ukraine, Iceland, Azerbaijan. But clearly they have found it quite difficult this game week, because whilst a routine victory against Azerbaijan, they did end up dropping points against Iceland. And to be fair, they had a lot of chances that game. And looking back on the game, I remember watching it alongside the England game, and I was like, at some point, France is gonna get a goal, and then they're gonna be back on just peppering Iceland with shots after shot after shot. But when I saw Nkunku score, and then I saw that Iceland equalized, I was like, damn, Iceland is actually playing well. Iceland have got their two opportunities, they've taken them, and France are actually struggling to score a goal. And looking back on the game, apparently Kylian Mbappe didn't play. They should have had a lot of people questioning why he didn't come on. He was good. He was why he wasn't in the squad as well. But at the end of the day, like, you got the quality of Maignan, Upamecano, Saliba, Kone, Camavinga. Like, these are players that are good enough to win a tournament, let alone try and beat Iceland. Big up Alier in the chat. I can see you in the chat. Hope you're doing well. We need Schlotterbeck. Bro, I told everybody about Schlotterbeck for a while, and I feel like I'm starting to get my flowers now that everyone's talking about him. Like, fantastic player. I will give my thoughts on Schlotterbeck. There will be another stream coming out later today. We'll go into a little bit more detail about Liverpool and also our game against Manchester United. But in good news for France, well, I won't say for France, but for Liverpool, was this man, Hugo Ekitke. Ekitke were registered an assist against Azerbaijan, which is obviously great for us. It hopes to boost our confidence as well. But now he's starting to find his feet within the national team, which looked a little bit difficult to do, seeing that as Mbappe is currently the main striker for Madrid. You would expect him to continue that to his national team, but no, like, Ekitke has come in and done his business for France, putting his name out there for Didier Deschamps to give him a massive headache. Personally, for me, if you're looking at the best front three, if you talk about Dembele, Ekitke, and Mbappe, that is by far the best front three you could have. So if I was Deschamps, I would be playing that sort of lineup. But if you're not, then I'm not sure what you're doing with that. So that is by the by. But he's a manager. He gets paid the big bucks, and also he's won a World Cup as well. So I can't really argue with a man that's already won the World Cup. But there we go. Now, this one's interesting. This one is very, very interesting. Germany. We need to have a quick discussion about Germany. Obviously, we'll get onto a certain someone that plays for Germany as well. The number 17 for them. But I'm not going to use Luxembourg as a measuring stick for any team, any top team. Like, if you're a top team, you're expected to beat Luxembourg. That's the reality of the situation. But me seeing Florian Wirtz on the left-hand side again and seeing Gnabry in the middle, and I'm like, why? You're playing two players relatively out of position. One, Gnabry shouldn't even be seeing the German national team anymore. I don't know why he's still there. It really does show the lack of quality that the German national team have produced in a very, very long time. But this guy, I don't know what's happened to him. I know he had a decent game against Luxembourg, but again, it's Luxembourg. You shouldn't be. It should be natural. It should be a given that you beat Luxembourg comprehensively. But that's by the by. But the main issue I had was against Northern Ireland. Now, I did watch a bit of the game, the Northern Ireland game. It was a poor showing if you're a Germany fan. It really was. They made a couple of decent chances for Voltemada. Obviously, Voltemada got his goal, took it very well, a nice, well-placed header from a corner kick. But look, I'm looking at the stats. Like, you're up against Northern Ireland, and we'll get on to Northern Ireland. Obviously, Conor Bradley plays for them, but look, having all that possession and having less shots on goal, like, it's important to always trouble the goalkeeper when you can, and that's exactly what Germany didn't do. And we have to have a conversation about Florian Wirtz, because I saw him on that left-hand side again, and he looked absolutely piss poor. He looked so poor that game. Couldn't dribble, couldn't pass, looked out of touch. Like, it was a struggle to watch as a Liverpool fan who really likes Florian Wirtz, wants him to do well and wants him to thrive as well. So that's the main issue with Wirtz. Like, you have to understand that this guy, he hasn't had a great start at Liverpool. He struggled quite a bit. Maybe it is a little bit down to him. Also, it's down to the manager and the system. But that don't mean you should be putting up stinkers for your national team as well. I really thought this international break will do him a load of good. Be back with the national team. Hopefully get some good performances under his belt with the players that he's played with for almost about 2 or 3 years. But it's not good enough. You have to just say it as it is. It wasn't good enough. And I know people have said, play him on the left. He'll look a lot better on the left. Like, we saw him on the left against Northern Ireland and he looked dog. So what else are we going to do? Like, it is the reality of the situation. And if you look at Germany and where they're placed in the World Cup qualifiers, always keeps going to the Nations League for some reason. Despite the bad performances, if I could actually find Germany, I don't know where they are. Where are Germany? Spain, France, Denmark, Switzerland. There, Group A. I mean, they're still top of the table with 9 points, but let's be honest, it should be 12 out of 12. And like the shock result against Slovakia at home says a lot. Could there even be a possibility that Germany don't qualify for a World Cup? I personally don't think so. But the fact they're 9 points, we're 9 points out of 12. Their next game, I think, is against Slovakia. No, it's against Luxembourg and Slovakia. And we've already seen them play against Slovakia and lose. There is a chance that they might not qualify for this World Cup. Obviously, it's a very, very slim chance, but could you imagine a World Cup without Germany? Like, one of the most successful teams in World Cup history. I think they've got 4 World Cups. I just can't. And the breadth of talent that they got. And if you're a Germany fan and you're looking at this, you're like, we really do miss Jamal Musiala. That's the only person that I could think of that's not in that team that would start ahead of everybody else. It's Jamal. And the fact that they're not creative enough, they're not doing anything in the final third, and the fact that Jamal Musiala is no longer there, it says a lot, man. It really says a lot. But speaking of Northern Ireland, I should go a shout out Conor Bradley. It'll be a quick segment on Conor Bradley. Great performance against Slovakia, man of the match performance. He didn't get a GA, but as you guys know, I am not for one that solely relies on GA. You got, but a game where he played very well. Unfortunate to get a yellow card in that game that got him suspended for the Germany game. I think he was a massive miss for them in that Germany game, as you could see it for everyone. Deveni was also very good on the other side. So they've got two very, very decent up and coming young young fullbacks that are there that would probably cause a lot of teams a lot of problems. Like, it's a weird one with Conor Bradley because he hasn't played well for Liverpool in the last couple of weeks. But always for the national team, he turns up. He always plays well against other nations like your Slovakias. I think he would have had a massive difference in that Germany game, but he doesn't seem to replicate it for Liverpool, which is a bit annoying, so to speak, because naturally you'd think, oh, Liverpool, you're surrounded by quality players, you're surrounded by the likes of your Salahs, your Wirtz, your Ekitke, your Gravenberch. You think, oh, the quality's there. Why not? Why don't you replicate that, what you do for your national team without the quality with the club? But he doesn't seem to do it. But fair play to him. He had a really good performance against Slovakia. Wasn't able to play against Germany, but I think if any of you on that watched the game, such as myself, they badly missed him that game. They really, really missed him. And I think he would have provided an extra threat for the Northern team against the Germans. But it is what it is, as they say. Now, on to the next one. Is going to be Georgia. Obviously, Mamadashvilli's team. Again, a very, very mixed one for him. It was a 2-0 defeat to Spain, arguably the best team in the world. But even though it's a loss, it doesn't show the full story because, one, I know for a fact in like the 20th minute, I think Mamadashvilli saved a penalty. Yes, he did against Ferran Torres. Like, he did that to prevent it from being 2-0 earlier in the game. But if you look at the stats, I mean, Spain just absolutely peppered Georgia. Like, look at that. 82% of the possession that they had, 24 shots, 7 on target. So he had to make 5 saves in that game at minimum to prevent it from being even worse than it was. So fair play to Mamadashvilli. Obviously didn't get the result that he wanted. But there is no shame in losing 2-0 to the best team in the world. And for a team like Georgia, who have some decent players, like they've got Kvaratskhelia, they got Mikatautsa, obviously Mamadashvili in goal. But other than that, like, you compare it to Spain, like it's night and day. You got the likes of Supermendi, Pedri, Oyarzábal, Pino, Porro, who's doing well for Tottenham, Kubasi, Cucurella. Like, these are players like I think it starts for majority of the nations in the world, let alone just for Spain. And they didn't even have their best players in the game. They didn't even have the likes of Lamine Yamal. So that just shows the absolute quality of Spain in general. Now on to another European nation. I think will be the final European nation that we are covering, and that is Scotland. Scotland had, again, a very decent set of results for themselves. Obviously led by our vice captain, Andrew Robertson. You saw his team win both their games back to back. And it was an interesting one. Like, you think of the quality that they've got going forward, you're like, they should be able to handle the likes of Greece and the likes of Belarus, but they didn't make it a bit hard on themselves. I think there was a lot of criticism for the likes of Scott McTominay, Che Adams, but I think everyone knows the limitations of Che Adams. John McGinn wasn't that great as well. And Andrew Robertson was, again, all right, but again, if you're looking at the quality that he shows for Liverpool compared to Scotland, it's just not replicating. And for a captain, they should be doing better. But nonetheless, they still won their games, which is the most important thing. in the qualifiers, and now they sit second. They sit second, level on points with Denmark, and I believe their next game is against Greece and Denmark as well. So all to play for in that group. Is guaranteed that both of them will be going. At least one of those teams will be going to America. It's just a case of who ends up going in the end. So fair play to Scotland. Now, off topic, we're going across the world to Africa, and particularly Egypt, who have qualified for the 2026 World Cup. Obviously not are missing out last term in 2022, but are returning following their first ever qualification in 2018. And the man that sends them there, the man that leads them there, obviously is Mohamed Salah. Mo Salah scoring 2 goals against Djibouti as they comfortably lead their group, 26 points ahead, with Burkina Faso being the closest at 21 points. So it was just a complete domination from Egypt in that group from start to finish, and they ended up winning that group as well, winning both their games. But most importantly, and I think the most important thing Egypt fans will always think of, is getting through to the World Cup finals. So fair play to Egypt. Well, congratulations on their victories, and obviously congratulations to Mo Salah, who will also be leading them to America as well. And lastly, a team that we'll go for is Argentina. Now, Mac Allister has been in a lot of stick recently. Hasn't been performing well for Liverpool. Is unable to pass a ball. But this game, regardless, I know it is Puerto Rico and it is a friendly. 2 goals will do him a load of good. 2 goals for his nation. Playing outside of his preferred position on the left-hand side, I think it allowed him to become a little bit more central. I do feel from what I saw from extended highlights, it was more or less a 4-3-3. But nonetheless, 2 goals for your nation is something that you gotta give some level of praise to. Even as a midfielder, and a midfielder that doesn't really get a lot of goals for his nation, but his 2 goals to make it the first goal in the 14th minute and his second in the 36th, as they ran out 6-0 winners. Obviously, they've already qualified for the World Cup in America, leading their group with 38 points. Then you got Ecuador, and then Colombia and Uruguay all on 28 points, just showing the absolute vast strength that Argentina have compared to every other South American nation. It is absolutely crazy. And then obviously the big one, Brazil being placed 5th in the table. That is something that we need to discuss on a regular basis, because a country like Brazil, with the quality that they got to finish 28 points in 5th place, at a bare minimum, they should be second. A bare minimum. And it's something that we have to discuss. It is something that we have to discuss as well. But that ends it for the international break roundup. It was going to be a quick one. But later on today, we'll be doing coverage for the Liverpool versus Manchester United preview. And we'll also go through what sort of needs to do to make things work again, because there have been so many mistakes happening, both from the player's point of view and also from the manager point of view. But that will come later in the stream. Well, actually later today, preferably around about 7 or 8 o'clock. But do keep your notifications switched on. If you haven't, just click on the bell sign, keep it on. There will be some updates coming soon, but we're slowly starting to bring out more content for you guys. I know I have been a little bit inconsistent. This international break has been a bit tough on everyone, but now that the Premier League is back this weekend, I can assure you there will be more content on this channel on a regular basis. But that's all from me. If you haven't already, like, If you want to comment, just give your thoughts on the international break and some of these players that have performed this international break, leave it in the comment section. And most importantly, guys, do drop me a subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Get this shared out on your socials, get this shared out to your family, everything on the web, on the road to 500 subscribers. And that's all from me, people. Thank you.